In 2023, I've had the pleasure, or if it's my bank account, misfortune of using all of Nike's top spec 4-boot silos. So in this video, I'm going to rank the 4 of them from worst to best. Now, by no means are any of these boots objectively terrible, but some are just better than the others. That being said, this is all my opinion, and if yours is different to mine, that's perfectly fine. Now, I'm basing this list on 3 main things. So number 1, my own playing experience. 2, just general perception of each of these boots. And 3, just conversations I had with other people within the boot community, as well as watching reviews from other reviewers as well. With that being said, let's begin. So at number 4, we have the Nike Phantom Lunar. Now, for me, it's a bit of an underrated boot. It was released just ahead of the Women's World Cup last summer, and the USP of the boot, or unique selling point, was that it was made to be more accommodating to the feet of women footballers. As you know, men and women, even though we are of the same human species, physiologically we are a bit different, so women's feet need a few more accommodations than men's feet typically do. On top of that, Nike also kind of, hyped up this new what they call the Nike Cyclone 360 sole plate, which was helped to prevent the chances of injuries when you're twisting and turning, making all these kind of lateral movements, which sometimes, can lead to like serious injuries. Now, there's a big misconception about this boot that people think, well, too many people probably think that this boot is specifically only for women. But if you read a lot of the articles around this boot, you will know that they're actually just unisex. Men and women can use them. It's just that these do accommodate women's feet more so than, say, a GX, a Mercurial, a Tiempo, for example. And just to prove my point, they are men footballers, or male footballers, should I say, that actually do wear the Lunar. So your De Bruynes and your Tchouaménis of the world, they both wear the Lunar. It's just like maybe the boot hasn't got as much attention as maybe it probably should have in the male game, because those two players have been quite injured this season. But I can't lie, the lack of maybe clarity and the confusion around the marketing is probably why this boot is not maybe as seen as popular as it probably could be. On top of that, the sole plate, it comes across as a bit gimmicky. You can't really, the average person can't see any kind of tangible differences in the performances of the sole plates. You get a bit of placebo, but apart from that, I wouldn't say this boot has helped. Well, I don't know if this boot stops me from getting injured, you know what I mean? So, it comes up because of a bit gimmicky, but other than that, I think it's an alright sole plate. It's nothing too bad, there's nothing too exceptional either. It's just a decent enough sole plate. But that being said, I actually did enjoy using these boots. Because maybe they're more kind of squeeze on your foot, because they accommodate women's feet a bit more. I got a bit of a more responsive touch on the ball. The boot itself is quite well structured and built, which is more to my kind of taste when it comes to football boots. So there's that as well. But yeah, I found the boot was like quite a delight to play in. It is quite narrow fitting, and your foot do hurt after maybe if you're playing a bit too long. But apart from that, I really did enjoy playing in these. So honestly, I wish more people try these boots out, but they're not a bad boot in any respect. And in terms of just like general look on them, they quite reminiscent of, the Magista silo, the Magista 2 to be more specific. However, another reason why it's probably ranked lowest out of all the 4 silos is that really and truly, it doesn't really offer anything that the other boots on the market in the Nike silo portfolio don't offer already. So Tiempo has the kind of, level like more traditional kind of feel. It could be argued. The Mercurial is the Mercurial, speed boot, lightweight, etc. But a lot of the boots down lightweight. And the GX, already had grip in it. This has grip in it as well. So like, there's nothing really intrinsic about the boot that you would say, yeah, get this over any of the other ones. At number 3, we have the Nike Tiempo Legend 10. Again, another very good boot, but there's certain things about this boot which makes me not be able to put it higher than, the other 2. And it's more to do with this kind of the changes that they made with this model. So for those who may not be aware, so this model saw the removal of kangaroo leather, which was quite synonymous with the Tiempo line. And instead, Nike are using what they call Fly Touch Plus on the upper, which is just a synthetic variation of leather. Prior to this boot coming out, Nike had already announced the change, and a lot of people were quite pessimistic about the change. I myself, I'm not much of a leatherhead, so I was a bit optimistic. I was like, you never know, this new material could be, the future. It could be something like a stepping stone into better, more kind of realistic leather synthetics. But I think the change from kangaroo leather to the fly touch was maybe a tad bit too radical, as I feel it caused a bit of a loss of identity when it comes to this football boot, and more to do with the Tiempo line specifically. Now, not to say that the 10 is worse than the 9, but it feels a lot different. And it almost feels like the Tiempo legend doesn't feel like a legend anymore. Like kangaroo leather, I now realize was pretty much like the main USP for this boot. The fly touch is not bad, but it's just, the touch on the ball is not as, buttery soft as it was before. Now, in terms of actually playing in the Tiempo 10, I say like playing them is pretty much fine. It's just that they just don't feel like a Tiempo. Like, snappy enough sole play is pretty much the same one that they used in the previous model. Touching the ball, feel for the ball is good. You get this kind of like gripping kind of silicone pods on the instep of the boot to help with like controlling and getting grip on the ball. And like the overall playing experience in these boots, I'd say is quite good. Like I compare it to a mixture of maybe the CTR with a Mercurial, for example. You get like it's more like a leather speed boot at this moment in time rather than a Tiempo, which is a bit of a shame. But it's still overall a very good boot. I didn't have any issues with them in terms of playing, comfortable, responsive, all the good stuff that you want in a boot. Is just not a Tiempo anymore. Now, I think, let me not say a Tiempo, I think if Nike kind of changes the naming of it to give this boot a bit of a different kind of identity to the Legend series. So like they drop the Legend and they create something else. So I don't know, the Nike Tiempo Touch or something along those lines to make it the boot, stand out a bit more from the kind of, the USP of the kangaroo classic leather on the previous models. And at number 2, we have Nike Mercurial Vapor 15, Superfly 9, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, this boot. Again, another fantastic football boot in terms of like performance. It pretty much does everything that, that you'd want in a Mercurial, but again, this one's another boot that suffers a bit from a loss of identity with this model. Now, one of the gripes people have had with previous Mercurial models is that they're too narrow fitting. And I think what Nike tried to do with this model is be a bit of a people pleaser, which I think has been to, their deficit. So when you get to wear these on feet, they feel a lot more padded than usual for Mercurial. They also fit a bit wider for Mercurial as well. Now, to make people a bit more happy and include those changes, what Nike have lost out on with this Mercurial model, I think, in my opinion, is maybe a bit of like feel for the ball and lockdown. It's still good, but it's not as, that kind of strapped into a Formula One car that you can experience with previous Mercurial models. However, still a fantastic boot to play in. In terms of like, one thing I would say as well is that, the Nike Mercurial you'd say is like the kind of crown jewel for Nike and usually the boot that's like leading in innovation for them. I don't necessarily get this vibe with this Mercurial as such. Vapor Puzzle we've seen before. You've got the whole kind of air graphic or the air zoom technology in these boots. I mean, the air zoom technology is nothing new. We've been seeing it for since the mid 90s. So, maybe it's the first time it's been introduced in, let's say, a kind of Vapor Superfly. But, in terms of actual kind of cutting edge innovation with this Mercurial model, I wouldn't say there's anything about it that is as cutting edge, as opposed to other boots on the market anyway. I'm also not a big fan of the graphics on the boot. I think the whole kind of air on the side, maybe like for the first few iterations, this is the launch colorway, but like you see on other later colorways, I think the air kind of branding kind of ruins the aesthetic of the boot somewhat, but that's just me being nitpicky. But again, I've done a lot of moaning about this boot, but still it is a fantastic boot and it's still a great option to actually use and try out, especially if you're someone who prefers speed boots and have wider feet. This is still a great option to actually have at your disposal. And of course, at number 1, we have the Nike Phantom GX. After many years of what I think have been like lackluster releases from Nike in terms of like just general boots, not some of the special edition and the concert boots, I think this has been a shining light in a dark room. I say that because in terms of like Nike wanting to be the market leaders and leaders in innovation and product design when it comes to all boots, I think this boot is one of the boots that actually, it does do that in the fact that we got the introduction to grip knit technology, which I think is quite revolutionary in terms of the way a kind of grip element is introduced to a boot. Usually we're used to kind of like maybe a silicone or rubbery kind of elements across the instep or just on the upper of the boot. This is like, I think this is like the first time we've seen like the grip element kind of woven into the knit of a football boot before. On top of that, it's a huge upgrade on the previous GT model. And in terms of just as a football boot, it's very well-rounded. And it pretty much does everything that you want in a boot. So, great comfort, great footable, snappy enough sole play. Could do a bit of improvement. Lockdown is quite decent as well. It's a bit wider fitting as well, as opposed to some of Nike's other models. And lockdown tooling, I've probably repeated myself, but yeah, all round, I think it's a great football boot. Like seriously, like they are a joy to play in when it's fully broken in as well. Comfort wise, I've already talked about comfort, but like fully broken in is like you're wearing slippers on a football pitch, and that's pretty much what you want. You want comfort that offers kind of like distractionless playing experience, but like it's just noticeably soft when you step onto a pitch with these fully broken in. It almost feels like you're walking on pillows. And that's been my Nike football boots of 2023 from worst to best. Let me know what order you'd rank them in the comment section. For more kind of football boot related videos, be sure to first of all like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be releasing a lot more football boot related videos in 2024. And as always, my name is Sub. This has been SubStanceFtb. Thank you for watching. Peace out.